welcome. Shalom.
Shalom, y'all.
This is Black Ice.
And this is the Keys.
And welcome to our new show, the Bible study called The Bible versus Christianity.
Yeah, and basically in the show, we kind of, we'll basically be talking about scriptures and giving, kind of putting things in a certain perspective. And what we're going to talk about, because, sometimes when you talk about scriptures, a lot of people have a degree of removal from it because they don't understand that this is something that these are actual people going through actual things, and a lot of these different lessons apply to real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Basically, we want this to be a very a casual Bible study, type of production.
Right.
And we want to make sure we go over people's heads. And Keith and I, we both are very Bible believers, but we want people to realize there's a big difference in doctrine between the Bible and Christianity.
Oh yes, huge difference.
It's a huge difference. So so that's why we call it the Bible versus Christianity, because a lot of Christian culture is not biblical at all.
Because think about it. A big thing with Christianity, be it the Catholics or the Protestants, is they use the scriptures to justify a certain action that they want done.
Basically, to serve their own agendas.
Exactly. Exactly.
And and like Keith was saying, we grew up hearing these stories, but sometimes we tend to forget that these are real people going through real situations.
Right.
And we hopefully, through our discussion, we kind of bring people to life and also show that human nature hasn't changed that much, over time. Because I know I read some of these stories now, it sounds like us today, that much has changed.
Spitting image.
Yeah,
spitting image. Same situations, same mannerisms and everything, thousands of years removed.
Yeah, so to let y'all know, we do believe in the Old and New Testament.
Yes.
We believe in Christ. We call him Yeshua. We don't use the Jesus. We feel like that's a pagan name, but we do believe in Christ, and he died for our sins, and but we also still believe in the law and the holy days and
exactly.
whatnot too.
All of it's connected together.
Yeah. So you can't have the old without the new without the old.
Because Moses spoke of him who's to come after him, who's greater than him, and that was Yeshua.
Right.
And then Yeshua said, "Let them hear Moses."
Right.
So you got that loop.
Yeah, all connected together, and and that we're going over tonight. We're going to talk about Moshe.
What we're going to talk about is basically the relationship between leadership and love, because one thing about dealing with our people, one thing about it is it's very easy to get frustrated when you're dealing with we're Hebrew Israelites. So when we talk about our people acting in a heathenistic or worldly way, we call him Jake, like Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're dealing with Jake, because we're all Jake sometimes, but when you're dealing with our people, it's very easy to get frustrated because we are a very difficult people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are.
But looking through the scriptures, you have to realize that in order to be a good shepherd, you can't be aggravated when a sheep acts like a sheep. You know what I mean? You have to be, in order to be a good shepherd, you have to have that patience, and you have to have that love for your people at the end of your day, because that love's going to override whatever anger you feel.
Right. And it basically when it comes down to why are you in the position that you're in? Are you doing it to serve y'all, or are you doing it to serve your own purpose? Are you doing it for ego? Are you doing it for clout? It's a lot of different reasons, and knowing their true intentions reflects in their leadership.
Right, because look at different leaders throughout history. You have we're gonna go into biblical history, but you have leaders that they wanted power for the sake of power. They wanted power for in order to go push a certain agenda, and then you had those that wanted power to genuinely help the people. And the first leader we're going to get into is in the book of Judges. There was, I guess you could call it the first quote unquote king. He wasn't really a king. He wasn't really truly anointed. He was a tyrant named Abimelech.
Yeah.
And with Abimelech was a very brutal man. He just wanted power. And Gideon was one of the judges who tore down the statues of Baal and led his people out of captivity. And Gideon had a bunch of children, about I think 70 sons, and Abimelech was among one of them. So Abimelech, when he grew older, he slew all of his sons, and not all of his sons. He slew all of his brothers, the sons of Gideon, and he took power and proclaimed himself king over Israel. And let's actually go down into the scripture where it talks about Jotham. If you go a little lower, I think it's around around verse
all right.
7.
And definitely get your Bibles out with us. So like I said, we in Judges 9. Here you can also follow us here on the screen. We read at the King James Version.
Right. and so we're in Judges chapter 9, verse 7. And what happened was, when Abimelech slew all of his brothers, there was one that remained named Jotham. And Jotham, once Abimelech slew all of his brothers with a rock, he escaped and he ran on top of a mountain. And he made a speech. So we're gonna go ahead and read that.
Oh
my!
Yeah, but before you start reading, just imagine like somebody, like say they didn't like guns you had back in the day, or you said on the bomb. Like this dude went with a stone, one by one, to kill off his siblings.
Yes,
his brothers. Now, I mean, of course,
what kind of savage man.
Further savage. Now, granted, he probably wasn't close to his siblings, considering y'all came from different households. But even still, that's very savage to go one by one, killing off your brothers.
And it was like about 70 of them that he killed off with a stone.
With a stone.
And just one made it out. And so verse 7, and when they told it to Jotham, he went and stood in the top of Mount Gerizim, and lifted up his voice and cried, and said unto them, Hearken unto me, you men of Shechem, that Elohim may hearken unto you. The trees went forth on a time to anoint a king over them. And they said unto the olive tree, Reign thou over us. But the olive tree said unto them, Should I leave my fatness, wherewith by me the honor of Elohim and man, and go to be promoted over the trees? And the trees said to the fig tree, Come thou and reign over us. But the fig tree said unto them, Should I forsake my sweetness and my good fruit, and go to be promoted over the trees? Then said the trees unto the vine, Come thou and reign over us. And the vine said unto them, Should I leave my wine, which cherish Elohim and man, and go to be promoted over the trees? Then said all the trees unto the bramble, Come thou and reign over us. And the bramble said unto the trees, If in truth you anoint me king over you, then come and put your trust in my shadow. And if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. Now therefore, if you have done truly and sincerely, in that ye have made Abimelech king, and if ye have dealt well with Jerubbaal and his house, and have done to him according to the deserving of his hands, for my father fought for you, and adventured his life far, and delivered you out of the hand of Midian. And you are risen up against my father's house this day, and have slain his sons, 70 persons. So that's 70. That's 70 men
70
that
70
he killed
men.
Upon one stone.
One stone.
And have made Abimelech, the son of his maidservant, king over the men of Shechem, because he is your brother. Man, and
you man, how bloody that stone was.
Goodness.
Verse 19.
And if you then have dealt truly and sincerely with Jerubbaal, and with his house this day, then rejoice you in Abimelech, and let him also rejoice in you. So basically what you're seeing, that parable that he does is really interesting, because you see that all these different trees that have their own savoriness to them, they don't want that power. They don't want that power, because it's like, okay, I go and I give up what good qualities I give onto those around me in order to have this power.
for that lust of power.
For that lust of power. But you see, when it came to that bramble, the bush, the bush gladly took the power, not because it had something to offer to the forest, but because it wanted to devour the forest. It wanted to have that control. And Yotham's basically saying, look, if you guys want this to be your, because I mean, at the end of the day, the sheep are going to hear who the shepherd is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So Abimelech is saying, Yotham is saying, if you want this to be your ruler, then you be happy with him and he be happy with you. But just know you're turning against Gideon, the one who actually fought for you, the one who had love and desire for you.
Was he had the second name here, that you say Euroball.
Euroball, yeah.
Yeah, so let people know the same person.
Yeah, Yerubal.
Yeah.
Yerubal. And the reason he was called that was because he tore down the altar of Baal.
Yeah.
And isn't it wild that his nickname lasted longer than his actual... They're referring to him as Yerubal.
Hey, let you know they look like us too, man, because we good with nicknames.
Man.
Like, these are nicknaming people.
and that thing will stick.
Yeah, and it'll stick the rest of your life.
Right.
Yeah.
But let's go into King Saul, because that's another good example of a leader that he didn't have love for his people, you know,
Right.
and there's multiple examples that you can see. Let me see. Are we going to start off with the whole thing with David and Goliath? Which one are we starting off with?
We got the one he wasn't following orders, and then well, if you go back further to 1 Samuel 13, that's when he was talking about the sacrifice. Like, he did sacrifice, he trying to blame it on Samuel.
Yeah, let's do that one first.
Yeah, and this is for a slight backstory. And like, so you follow us being 1 Samuel 13. King Saul, he was the very first king of Israel.
Right.
He came before David. So a lot of people know King David. Everybody know about him, but came from King Saul. He was the first one. And before that period, they had a period of the judges.
Right.
And then Samuel was the last high priest that was in charge.
Right.
So you talk about a shifting. So you talk about shifting power, shifting government.
Right.
But of course our people are hard, stiff-necked people,
because they wanted a physical king to rule over them, because all the nations had one.
Yeah, and they literally said that. They said they want to be like all the other nations, and that's so crazy to me, because I think we all know people like that now. Like, everybody want to be special, but you want to act like everybody else.
Man,
exactly. It doesn't make sense.
People want to be unique, but follow that herd mentality.
And it's after y'all always talking about, this lets you know, this man gonna treat you wrong, he gonna do you dirty, and they didn't care.
That's fine, as long as we have a king and we're just like the other nations.
Yeah, that's what they want, and so y'all gave what they wanted.
Exactly.
But it's so funny because when bad things happen, sometimes people be the most rebellious people.
Right.
They won't believe in Yahweh, but then something go bad. What was he then? Well,
you weren't even following him to begin with, so why would he be with you?
Right. He's like, which one do you want?
Exactly.
So,
with this situation, Saul, he's mounting up to battle, and he's waiting for Samuel to come make a sacrifice. And let's just read what happens. Where should we start off? I like the way they wrote down the numbers on 13:5 to show how many people was there. Okay. All right, let's start at 13 and 5. So we're starting at 1 Samuel 13 and verse 5. And the Philistines gathered themselves together to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and people as the sand which is on the seashore in multitude. And they came up and pitched in Michmash, eastward from Bethaven. When the men of Israel saw that they were in a strait, oh my goodness, for the people were distressed, then the people did hide themselves in caves and in thickets and in rocks and in high places and in pits. So they were basically trapped on all sides. And some of the Hebrews went over Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. As for Saul, he was yet in Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling. And he tarried 7 days according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. But Samuel came not to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. And Saul said, Bring hither a burnt offering to me, and peace offerings. And he offered the burnt offering. And it came to pass, as soon as he made an end of offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him, that he might salute him. And Samuel said, What hast thou done? And Saul said, Because I saw that the people were scattered from me, and that thou camest not within the days appointed, and that the Philistines gathered themselves together in Michmash. Therefore said I, The Philistines will come down now upon me to Gilgal, and I have not made supplication unto Yahweh. I forced myself thereof, and offered a burnt offering. And Samuel said to Saul, Thou hast done foolishly. Thou hast not kept the commandment of Yahweh thy Elohim, which he commanded thee. For now would Yahweh have established thy kingdom upon Israel forever. Man.
No. But, you go to the last verse here in 14.
Mm-hmm. But now thy kingdom shall not continue. And Yahweh has sought him a man after his own heart, and Yahweh has commanded him to be captain over his people, because thou hast not kept that which Yahweh's commanded thee.
At that point, that when you knew that he found Dawid.
Right.
And it didn't show you how weak Saul was as a leader. I mean, right. he was mean, was in charge, but people were scared to follow him. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then he thought he could make things better by doing a burnt offering, which he wasn't supposed to do.
He stepped out of order, and that's another thing that has to do with being a good leader, and not only having love for the sheep, but having love for Yahweh first of all. You know, if you love Yah, you keep His commandments. Saul went out of his way to not keep Yahweh's commandments. That showed he had no love. He didn't have the basics of love. The basic form of love is the love of Yahweh and the keeping of His commandments. He couldn't even do that.
No, like he was serving himself. Every order he made was to cover his own butt, basically. Exactly. You know, it was nothing for the good of the people.
Exactly.
You know, and he just could imagine how much it hurt his ego when your own people didn't want to follow you. They scared to follow you.
Right.
So they made him feel some type of way.
Exactly.
So then what he do? He got nervous. He got scared, and then out of that, he was like, well, I will go ahead and do this burnt offering.
My own self.
Own self. You know what I mean?
Because Samuel was a little late.
Yeah, just a little late. You couldn't wait on him. You know what I mean? But they really revealed how your heart was, because like you said, he really did love Yahweh. He would have stayed fast until he showed up.
He would have had faith.
And if you had real love for Yahweh, I think people would have saw that as well, and they probably was still with him waiting for Samuel.
Right.
But he was already losing the people before he made the burnt offering.
Because they couldn't trust him as they couldn't trust Saul as you said Samuel, you meant to say Saul.
Yeah.
But they couldn't trust Saul as a leader.
Yeah.
They saw that he didn't have that love for Yahweh, and that because he didn't have that love and faith for Yahweh couldn't be with him.
So it was like he was leading people out of fear and out of love.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that probably the type of people that followed him. Like, they didn't follow him because they loved Saul. They probably followed him because they were scared.
Right, and that was the most familiar thing.
Yeah. It was no loyalty there. So the whole foundation was shattered from the get go.
Right, exactly.
So that's definitely an example of a bad leader.
Right. Now let's get into the next thing with and this is a really good contrast. The whole situation with Saul during the fight with David and Goliath, and how we'll get into it once we get there. Now,
so we're gonna go to 1 Samuel 17. So you're gonna move a little forward.
Yeah,
and then I think you should probably start at verse 32. I think.
Okay. Let me see. Where's the part where he starts about Goliath being a warrior from his youth?
Oh, okay. So we got to go up a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Right here. Well, they gave his specs on how he looked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they say here on 1 Samuel 17 verse 4. And then he went out and championed out of the camp of the Philistines and Goliath, a Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span, which equals In the feet, I don't want to say like 9 feet.
It's like, yeah, 9 plus feet.
So you get this huge guy who was 9 feet tall.
Yeah.
And he had a helmet of brass upon his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass. I forgot how much that was, but that's a lot of weight, basically. So
and that's just the coat.
Yeah, and he had greaves of brass upon his legs and the target brass between his shoulders. So you got this 9-foot man armored up, taunting them.
He's armored up and he's swole.
Yeah,
he's a big old dude.
And I don't know if it says here, but I know they also mentioned that he had like 6 fingers on each hand. He had like 6 toes. Like this dude was a giant. And the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron, and one bearing a shield went before him. So yeah, he also had the armor bearer.
Right.
So he had to go through him to even get to this 9-foot man. And on top of that,
goodness.
And he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel and said unto them, "Why are ye come out to set your battle in array? Am I not a Philistine, and y'all servants of Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me." So he taunted them like, "Yo, bro, you ain't send all your people. Just send anybody you want. Just take me on."
Right.
All right. Dang. If he be able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then ye should be our servants and serve us. So basically, you're like, yo, we would have to have this big old battle right now.
Right.
We can just have one-on-one fight, and whoever win that fight wins the battle.
Man, so now let's go down to where let me see.
Yeah, that's
we'll start at about 22.
All right, so down to verse 22.
And David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage and ran into the army and came and saluted his brethren. And he talked with them. Behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words. And David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were sore afraid. And the men of Israel said, "Have you seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it shall be that the man who kills him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free of Israel." And okay, so this is the decree given by Saul that whoever kills Goliath will get all these riches.
Yeah.
Now he's talking about one of the soldiers.
Yeah.
One of the men who are in the army.
Yeah.
So let's read down a little further. And David spake unto the man that stood by him, saying, "What shall be done to the man that kills the Philistine and takes the reproach from Israel? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living Elohim?" And the people answered him of this manner, saying, "So shall be done unto the man that kills him." And Eliab, his eldest brother, heard what he spake unto the man. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, Why camest thou down hither? And with whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride, and the naughtiness of thine heart, for thou art come down that thou mightst see the battle.
Yo, you can tell that's like a conversation between brothers, all right?
Yeah.
Eli was the older brother. David is the very youngest.
Right.
He supposed to be at home tending to the sheep.
Yeah.
So Eli, he thought he just came down like you abandon your duties of these sheep, so you just trying to see the battle. You just trying to see some action.
Right. And on top of it, he you notice that he basically calls him cocky.
Yeah, he called him a cocky little brother, annoying. You said that's how you feel about David, like you know.
Right. But it's interesting, you know, the way he's seeing David as being prideful, when David really just wants to take care of business for his people.
He's passionate for his people.
Exactly. He's passionate.
Okay, he even say here in 29, he said, David said, what have I done? What have I now done? Is there not a cause? like why you keep riding me, bro? Right. like if what I'm saying is true, then we need to take this dude out. Do you supposed to have faith in y'all?
Right. All right, now let's go down a little further. And he turned from him towards another and spake after the same manner. And the people answered him again after the former matter. And when the words were heard which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul. And he sent for him. And David said to Saul, Let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with the Philistine. And Saul said unto David, Thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he's a man of war from his youth. And David said, okay, so you're seeing right here, it seems like Saul's concerned.
Yeah.
Maybe you could look at it like, Saul's just like, it's not realistic. But at the end of the day, if this is a young dude and he's not a part of your army, you would think that a real leader wouldn't let a kid go out and fight.
To me, it also shows like the bad structure or the bad shape the army was already in.
Right.
Imagine you as a kid. Can you go up and talk to the president?
Right.
How you even had access to him in the first place? You shouldn't have got past other generals and soldiers before you even got to him.
Right. And even though when it says a kid, like imagine there's a war being fought. Like the fact that David was tending the sheep, he probably wasn't of age to really fight in the army.
Right.
Which, the age to fight, I believe, is about 20.
Yeah.
So he wasn't even of that age.
Yeah.
So he was a young dude.
Yeah.
So
he only went to the front lines and he supposed to be handing out food to his brothers.
Right. Right. Exactly. But it's just it's wild seeing. You're going to see how Saul flips from like, oh man, I mean you're just a youth, and he's been fighting since he was from his youth. All right. So and
34.
34. All right. And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep. And there came a lion and a bear and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him and smote him and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and smote him and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear. And this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living Elohim. So that goes to show David's love.
Yeah.
He loved the sheep so much that he was willing to go after him when a lion and a bear took him.
Yeah.
That's true love.
That's true love, man. Cause like if I was a shepherd, like I said, as a youth, and I see a lion, a bear, take one of them sheep, like yo, we gotta take one up, pops. I'm sorry, we lost one. Like
man,
like you gotta think about it. This dude was armed. He was no faint. He wasn't a trained fighter.
Right.
He went out there with his bare hands basically and took them on to save that sheep. Like he risked his life at a young age. He was just that passionate about it.
And that's why Yahweh said David was a man after his own heart, because of how much he loved.
He loved it that much.
He loved the sheep, man.
How many of us would have done that?
Exactly.
Like yo, like I ran off like yo. I'm sorry, Dad, but that lion, that bear came out there, bro, and I'm like yo, we are the sheep, right? Like,
man, and man, because people could look at the sheep like, man, there's dumb animals. The same way, if you're frustrated with people, you can just look at people like, man, I ain't stunning them.
Yeah.
And just let them rot.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, David loved the sheep, and that's an example of his love for Israel.
Yeah.
Because he's not going out and seeing Goliath. Goliath is like one of these beasts.
Yeah.
And Israel's the flock.
Yeah.
David's being a shepherd unto the flock. He's protecting the flock against Goliath.
Even at that young age, like he shows great leadership characteristics that even the king didn't even have.
Exactly. So while he's protecting the flock against Goliath, let's see how Saul takes this. And Saul, let me see. David said, moreover, Yahweh that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and Yahweh be with you. So,
like yo, like basically, I wouldn't imagine. Do you imagine the soldiers around Saul like, yo, you gonna let this kid go out there and get slaughtered? You gonna let this kid? Not only that, you gonna let this kid represent this country? Man,
so and Saul tried to give him his different his what's it called?
His armor and stuff.
His armor and all that, but David was like, nah, I'm fine. Like I'm gonna go with a sling.
Yeah, you read the rest of the chapter. He tried to put on the rest of the armor, man. He like, yo, this armor ain't gonna fit me, bro.
Yeah,
all I need, like I said, all I need is a stone, a slingshot. I can handle it,
man. And can you imagine all the soldiers looking around like, yo, so you're gonna let this boy go out with a rock and a sling against this heavily armored man?
And of course, they're not gonna check the king because
the king's the king.
The king's the king. But in their mind, I'm pretty sure they thought like, damn, bro, like, well, it would be nice knowing that we,
But man,
it was a goner.
But goes to show what Saul had in his heart. And I mean, I don't think we have the scriptures for these, but I mean, some other examples of how Saul and David were different.
Yeah.
Was David kept trying to help Saul in different ways. You know, when Saul when that spirit was bothering Saul, and David tried playing the harp for him, and Saul just had that anger and that envy in his heart.
Yeah,
he just tried to kill the man with the javelin.
Yeah,
and it was to the point where he declared like an all out like David became a fugitive in Israel.
Yeah, and David was being a servant.
David was just being a servant. He became a fugitive in Israel.
The leader couldn't see it. The king couldn't see it.
Right.
Like he was just trying, he was just trying to do his job and be there for him, and and be blameless. And that, of course, that just wasn't enough. And
then so Saul started hunting down David, and then you have that story where Saul was sleeping, and David took a piece of his garment and showed it to him, and said, I could have killed you.
Yeah.
But that again, it shows David's love. Because at the end of the day, even though...
And his love was through the obedience of Yahweh.
Exactly.
He's like, yo, because like, he's like, yo, I know you wanted y'all's appointment. Like, yo, it ain't even my job to take you out.
Exactly.
But even still, I don't even want to. But I'm gonna just let you know that I could have done it.
And that's the thing about it. David, he had love for Yah's commandment, because at the end of the day, that's his anointed. And at the end of the day, even after all that Saul was actively trying to get to him. But David said, you know what? I have more love in my heart than that. I'm not going to kill you.
Right.
I'm not going to kill you, because he had faith.
Yeah.
He had love in Yah. And he, at the end of the day, he did have love for Yah's order and Yah's servants at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, Saul was somebody that was anointed.
Mm-hmm.
It was an anointed of Yah. So he still had to have that love for Yah's servant.
It also showed David's patience too, because when Samuel was anointing him, like Samuel pretty much told him, yo, you got to be the next king.
Right.
Just imagine hearing that as a teenager, like, you're gonna be the next king.
Right.
But it doesn't happen for like almost 2 decades. You see how to serve this man knowing that you supposed to be his replacement.
Right.
But he still, and he never, and he was still being a servant. He served him. He didn't try to undercut him or try to take over early or anything.
Right.
Like even after he knew what it was, he still did his job until it was time for him to step up.
Because it's not his.
They wouldn't fight the fight.
It's not his place. Exactly. Yeah. He knew that Yah was going to take care of all.
Yeah. If it really meant for him to do it, it would be.
Exactly.
So he didn't have a typical. I mean, he was cocky as far as, I wouldn't say cocky. He was a passionate man.
He was passionate.
He was a passionate young man, and like I said, he was selfless, and he waited.
Right.
And you live in such a generation now, man. We have no type of patience nowadays. We live in a microwave generation now. Like, we live in an instant generation, instant gratification generation. Right.
We're basically everything revolves around pleasure.
Yeah, and you want it now.
Right.
That dude had to wait 20. It had to be close to 20 years before he became king.
Yeah,
that's a long time. Wait for you to take your place as a king.
Yeah, and the whole time this man's actively hunting you
down. You're best friends with his son, and it's a very awkward position for him to be in.
Right.
He's best friends with Jonathan during that time. So it had to be a lot.
So let's go into the story of Moses. Let's start off with him and the Egyptian.
Okay. Well, we would break down who Moses was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people probably heard Moses, don't really know Moses.
Right.
Like they just probably seen a movie, 10 Commandments,
or King of Egypt, where you remember King of Egypt when Moses was dark skinned when he was in the temple and with the Egyptians, and then he went in the desert and became white.
Yeah, all the time. yeah, and that's probably all you know, man. And it's probably some people really hear in the Sunday church about who he really was, and he came up. And he was an Israelite.
Yeah.
But he did grow up in Egypt.
And the thing about it with the Hebrew Israelites and the Egyptians, the Egyptians and the Hebrews were both dark-skinned peoples.
Yeah.
So they were
black people wasn't the same.
Exactly. Exactly. So they were both dark-skinned people. So Moses was able to fit in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And by the way, I can go ahead and turn to Exodus 2. That's where we at.
Mm.
You can find his story.
What
yeah. The only one's off from the very top here. We can kind of skip down a little bit. We just kind of give them like the summary, basically.
Yeah.
But basically during this time in Egypt, the Israelites were serving the Egyptians,
right?
And then they had the women that worked within the kingdom,
yeah.
And then they got to hide. They were killing out the Israelite boys, What I mean?
Specifically, and it's interesting because in I believe it was King of Egypt when they showed them killing off the Hebrew Israelites, they were showing Hebrew boys and girls. Nah, that wasn't the case because women were taken and assimilated into the culture.
Well, they were killing now.
exactly. They were killing the boys. They were killing the seed.
Right, it was crazy. So you had the Israelite woman working within the kingdom. So she working for the Pharaoh and the family. She had a baby, and so of course she hid him. Which side I want to go to? Here it go. Yeah. So this is like I said, this is Exodus chapter 2.
Now it was Pharaoh's daughter that took him. Yeah.
Yeah, but the Israelite woman had Moshe.
Oh yeah.
And so verse 3, and when she could no longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes and dubbed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein, and she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And his sister stood far off, to which would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down, what you were saying, the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him, and said, "This is one of the Hebrew children." So she knew as an Egyptian, like I said, we're all dark-skinned people. She knew something different about him. Like, no, this is an Israelite child. Right. That wasn't an Egyptian child. So she knew the difference.
Right.
She didn't say, "Oh yeah," she knew the difference.
I mean, the same way a Korean man could tell the difference between the Chinaman and the Japanese man. You know what I mean?
So most be like, "Oh, they can't look the same," but they know.
Right, exactly.
They know. Verse 7. Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee?" It's funny because the history repeating itself, because that would happen in slavery, right?
Right.
We raised the child of our oppressors.
Exactly.
Verse 8. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I'll give thee thy wages." And the woman took the child and nursed it. So it's so fun.
And that's funny because she got Moses' own mother.
Because Pharaoh's daughter didn't know that she's the mother.
Right.
So she got paid to take care of to nurse her own child.
That's interesting.
While she getting raised in the kingdom. Verse 10. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moshe, and she said, "Because I drew him out of the water." So basically, it's an Israelite boy being raised in an Egyptian kingdom and Egyptian lifestyle.
He's not being raised around his people.
Right.
Not in the same way where he's not being a part of their family. He's not going out and serving the field. He's growing up in an Egyptian household.
Yeah. So and not just any Egyptian house. He's already Egyptian royalty.
The Pharaoh's household.
Pharaoh household.
The Pharaoh is seen as a god. So he is basically living the most luxurious life that could be lived in that area during that time.
Man, that's crazy. And here in verse 11 it said, "And it came to pass in those days when Moshe was grown, then he went out to his brethren and looked on their burdens.
Yes.
And he spied the Egyptians smiting a Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way." So he basically visioned when watching.
Right.
And when he saw there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And he went out the second day. Behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together. And he said to them that did the wrong, "Wherefore smitest thou fellow?" And he said, "Who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Intendest to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?" And Moshe feared, and surely this thing is known. So he thought nobody saw him commit that murder, and dude like, "Nah, bro, we know what you did, so I can't try to judge me what we're doing."
But it's even more interesting than that, because you're looking at it. Moses grew up in royalty. What you see, the love he had in his heart.
Man, he lets
in order
you know,
to
man.
see an Egyptian Egyptian beating the Hebrew Israelite, and he's just like, "Yo, I need to take care of this." And then when he sees 2 Hebrew Israelites fighting, he wants to mediate. Yeah, like you see, he already had that in him.
And you got to think about, man, these are people that grew up affluent, you know what I'm saying? In that type of household, that type of environment. they arrogant, they spoiled. They ain't trying to be involved in anything like that. There's no love like that.
Right, when it comes to royalty.
Man, and also amazing because they also let me know like he had some good surrounding. I mean, because he had his mom.
Right.
So I guess at some point his mom told him like, yo, you're really my son, right? You know what I mean? And they molded him growing up that had love for his own people. Like, yeah, you grew up into royalty, but don't forget who you really are.
Man, I mean, even if the mother wasn't around like that, it had to be something in him, man. Like, you know what I mean? It had to be something in him because, I mean, even for him to go between the two Hebrew Israelites fighting and want to settle it, want to end it.
I mean, that's that behavior is upbringing. Like, like I say, more likely, and we see that, we see it today. Like, so you haven't had some rich people. We may live in a rich person's house, but it'd be other people raising you.
Right.
So whoever raised him, like you said, even if it wasn't a mother or so the Hebrew, he was surrounded by his own people within that kingdom that was part of his workers.
Right.
Growing up, and they probably like spit game to him, gave him some gems growing up.
Right.
Because those type of behaviors, a good character, he just can't miraculously have it. You know what I mean? Like, you're the person you are today because of how you're raised. Because you had the beliefs that you had today because your parents taught you and raised you. And so for him to be in an affluent lifestyle, he still has enough real people around him to make sure he kept the 100. Right. And it really showed they had a great influence. Because like you said, man, how often we see a rich person get themselves involved in something like that?
Right.
I mean, and that says a lot. And not only get involved, he murdered the Egyptian.
Yeah.
Then buried him. You know what I mean? Like, just to save this dude's life. You know what I mean?
Right.
But of course, our people, once again, they didn't think none of that. They threw it back in his face, like, "Oh, you gonna try to murder me too now?"
Exactly.
Who are you? Because they probably saw his wealth and where he came from,
and they probably had envy against him,
right? Because he one of the rich ones.
Exactly.
Yeah. I see that happening. So Moshe, like, I gotta get out of here now.
Right,
you had to run. But it shows you then at that age when he was young. I can't say how old he was, but you just say he was younger.
No, I think it was about 40 when he fled Egypt.
Okay, yeah. So it's like he had a solid character and foundation at that point.
Right.
I mean, that says a lot. But to me, those are characters of a good leader.
Exactly.
Even then,
he had that love.
Yeah, he had the love there, and that says a lot. Yeah. And then you want to go over to you want to skip over to Exodus 17 when he's about to be stoned.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so let's go there. All right, so we're going to fast forward in history a little bit. In Exodus 17, all right, so a little backstory happening here. We can kind of, like I said, most of us kind of know the story of Moshe leading the people out of Egypt.
Right.
All right, now, when they led the people out of Egypt, when Pharaoh like, yo, just get the hell out of Egypt.
Right.
And he took people out there, and most of us know that the Israelites was in the desert for 40 years. But we just read that or think that and maybe just think past it. But we had to read that, sink in, like, yo, these people was out here for 40 years. There's a lot going on.
Man, that's a long time.
That's a long time, that for him out there. And like I said, he's an older man at that point, So yeah, even here, so it's 17, 1 through 7. I'll let you read that, 1 through 7.
Right. And the congregation of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin after their journeys, according to the commandment of Yahweh, and pitched in Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. Wherefore the people did chide with Moses, and said, Give us water that we may drink. And Moses said unto them, Why chide you with me? Wherefore do you tempt Yahweh? And the people thirst there for water. And the people murmured against Moses, and said, Wherefore is this that thou hast brought us up out of Egypt to kill us, and our children, and our cattle with thirst? And Moses cried unto Yahweh, saying, What shall I do unto this people? They be almost ready to stone me. And Yahweh said unto Moses, Go on before the people, and take with thee the elders of Israel, and thy rod, wherewith thou smotest the river, take in thine hand, and go. Behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, and the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. And he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, because of the chiding of the children of Israel. because they tempted Yahweh, saying, is Yahweh among us or not?
Man, this is how frustrating it had to be for Moshe, man. Like, these people was in slavery, out begging to be free.
Right.
Yahweh heard your cries, sent Moshe, and Aaron, get you out of there.
Right.
So to get you out of there, now you're ready to stone them.
And that's and this isn't just one story. There's multiple stories.
Multiple. So like they could out there for 40 years.
Right.
This 40 years of drama.
Right. Exactly.
Basically. And he could easily like I said, man, this man was living in royalty.
Right.
He could have been chilling in Egypt. He was fine. If he was thinking about it, he was really thinking about himself. He ain't do anything, man. But because, like you said, because his love and compassion, he knew Yahweh. He listened.
Exactly.
And he loved his people.
And he had that love for his people in him already.
Like he did it for the love of his people. He really didn't have to. But he did it. And then look how they tried to repay him. They tried to kill him.
Multiple times. This is just one example. And so let's go into the scripture where he actually stands in the breach for the same people who try to stone him and kill him and do all these things onto him.
I want to say, there's Numbers. So we go to Numbers 14. Where is that, I believe. All right. All right, so Numbers 14, and I think we go down to verse 11. Yeah, I think it's 11 through 45. Oh, no, 14. Yeah, that when the murmuring started. So 11.
All right. And Yahweh said unto Moses, how long will this people provoke me? And how long will it be ere they believe? Will it be ere they believe me? For all the signs which I have showed among them, I will smite them with the pestilence, and disinherit them, and will make thee a great nation, and mightier than they. And Moses said unto Yahweh, then the Egyptians shall hear it, for thou broughtest up this people in thy might from among them, and they will tell it to the inhabitants of the land, for they have heard that Yahweh art among this people, that Yahweh art seen face to face, and that because they're putting thou and then the Lord right by okay art seen face to face, and that thy cloud stands over them, and that thou goest before them by day time in a pillar of a cloud, and in a pillar of fire by night. Now if thou shalt kill all this people as one man, then the nations which have heard the fame of thee will speak, saying, behold, Yahweh was not able to bring this people into the land which he sware unto them. Therefore he has slain them in the wilderness. And now I beseech thee, let the power of my Elohim be great, according as thou hast spoken, saying, Yahweh is long-suffering and of great mercy, forgiving iniquity and transgression, and by no means clearing the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation.
Yeah, so he pleading with Yahweh, man. Like
he's giving a whole speech, man.
Like this after these people trying to stone him now.
Yeah.
And he's still trying to say these people, bro. He could easily say F them people, bro.
Man, Yahweh said, I will make a nation out of you. You don't have to deal with them.
Right. I take care of them.
Right.
And he like, nah, like please, Yahweh, like, nah, bro. Please don't do that.
Like, man, just
there's love there, man. It's crazy. Which part is about the breach?
I mean, that's basically what it is. Gets him pardon. I beseech thee, the iniquity of this people, according unto the greatness of thy mercy, that thou hast forgiven this people from Egypt, even unto now. And Yahweh said, I have pardoned according to thy word. Wow. Dang,
like, and people they probably didn't even know,
right,
to what extent that Moshe just saved their butts, bro.
Man,
because he could have. It was so many times that Yahweh he was about to wipe them out.
Yeah,
and trust me, he did it before. I mean, he had the Great Flood,
right?
Like
as far as like wiping out whole peoples from the face of the earth.
Yeah, he would do it, and that's something you don't really hear in Sunday church, man, because that would push the God is love thing.
Right.
Like, yeah, he loves it, but he about his business too.
Exactly.
Like, he ain't saying put up this crap either. Everybody has a breaking point.
Exactly.
And he was like about done with it.
And that's the thing. It goes to show how difficult our people can be.
Yeah.
But you still have to have that love for them. And at the end of the day, it's not when you're dealing with people. It's not about you.
Yeah.
You know, you can't. People are gonna wrong you in life. It's just one of those things where you know the character, you keep it moving.
Yeah.
And you still have to have that love for them, and sometimes you will even have to stand in the breach for them.
Yeah.
But when it's not about your ego, when you don't want anything out of anybody but their well-being, and you have that love, it's no big deal.
And he took on a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and actually, you know, we can see some of that if y'all go back to Exodus 18. And yeah, we go to 18 here. Yeah, all right. When Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moshe's father-in-law, remember at this point, Moshe he married an Egyptian woman. So yeah, they both was black, but it's still considered interracial marriage because there were different races of people. Right. You know, Moshe was Israelite and the wife was Ethiopian. Right. Heard of all that Elohim had done for Moshe and for Israel, his people, that Yahweh brought Israel out of Egypt. Then Jethro, Moshe's father-in-law, took Zipporah, you know, that's the Egyptian woman's name, Moshe's wife, after he sent her back, and her two sons, which was the name of the one was Gershom, for he said, I have been an alien in a strange land. And the name of the other was Eliezer, yeah. Eliezer, for Elohim of my father said he was my help and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. And Jethro, Moshe's father-in-law, came with his sons and wife to Moshe in the wilderness, where he camped at the Mount of Elohim. Man, so you know, remember after he murdered the Egyptian, he had and found out that other people knew about it. He ran off. Yeah. So he ran to foreign land. All right, he was fugitive. So he ran and he lived in Midian. Yeah. And so in Midian, he found himself a wife and had some kids. Yeah. All right. So even though they're part of a different culture, the father-in-law was a priest, which means his wife grew up as a priest's daughter. Right. So she's familiar with order of some sort. Right.
You know, even though it was of a strange order, it was still some kind of order.
You know, we just kind of mentioned how, you know, you had an Israelite and a Muslim. You know what I mean? Right. Like they both come from like a structured type of order.
Right. Even though it's a different kind of order.
Different culture, you know? Right. So he left his family, man. He left his wife and his two kids, go back to Egypt to get his people out. Right. This dude was alone. Like, you didn't think about that. When I read that, like, man, that dude left his own family behind to serve Yah and his people. Right. And then
for 40 years.
For 40 years. And like, even real more than that because it took time to get them out of Egypt.
Right, exactly.
So you spent all the time getting them out of Egypt, and then you finally got them out of Egypt. Now you're in the wilderness with the same people by yourself. You're there with your brother, but you had your family with you. So after a while, the father-in-law was so cool. He's like, yo, man, I brought your wife and kids with me. You need your family here. Right. But what part of it stood out with me with this scripture, the reason I chose the scripture, man, it showed how G the father-in-law was. Right. And he said, verse 6, and he said unto Moshe, I, that father-in-law Jethro, come unto thee, and that wife and her two sons with her. And Moshe went out to meet his father-in-law and did obeisance, and I guess greeting, and kissed them, and they asked each other of their welfare, and they came into the tent. So they got together, they hugged each other, and they started catching up with life because they ain't seen each other. Right. They had no phones, had emails, none of that. Right. And Moshe told his father-in-law that all that Yahweh had done unto Pharaoh and the Egyptians for Israel's sake, and the travail that had come upon them by the way, and how Yahweh delivered him. And Jethro rejoiced for all the goodness which Yahweh had done to Israel, whom he had delivered out of the hand of the Egyptians. So he rejoiced. So he come from another culture, like, man, that's real. Like, your God is real. You
exactly, right.
I seen him all eyes. And Jethro said, blessed be Yahweh, who had delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of Pharaoh, and had delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. All right, verse 11. Now I know that Yahweh is greater than all gods, like it exactly. said. And then for the thing wherein they dealt proudly, he was above them. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering and sacrifices for Elohim. And Aaron came, and we know which Moshe's brother, and all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moshe's father-in-law before Elohim. So they are, you know how you see somebody in a while, you got to break bread. Y'all eat, y'all chill. Right. You know what I mean? So that's what they did, man. They fellowship. Verse 13. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moshe sat to judge the people. And the people stood by Moshe from morning until the evening.
Goodness.
Morning and evening, that was like a full-time job.
Yeah.
So, and Moshe's father-in-law saw all that he did to the people and he said, what is this thing that doeth to the people? Why sittest there yourself alone? And all the people stand by thee from morning until even.
Man, that's a long time.
That's a lot. That's a lot of drama. People bring you their drama day in from dawn to dusk, day in, day out.
Right.
In the wilderness, doing this crap. And Moshe said unto his father-in-law, because the people have come to me to inquire of Elohim. When they have a matter, they come unto me, and I judge between one another, and I do make them know the statutes of Elohim and his laws. And Moshe's father-in-law said to him, the thing that thou doest is not good. He's like, brother, this is not good. It can't be good.
Right.
Thou wilt surely wear away, both you and this people that is with thee, for this thing is too heavy for thee, that are not able to perform it and thyself alone.
Right.
Hearken now to my voice. I will give you the counsel, and Elohim shall be with thee. Be thou for the people Elohim work that may have bring the causes unto Elohim. And thou shalt teach them ordinance and laws, and thou show them the way wherein they must walk, and the work they must do. Moreover, they shall provide out of all the people able men, such as fear Elohim, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands, and rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And let them judge people at all seasons, and it shall be that every great matter shall bring unto thee, but every small matter they shall judge. So shall it be easy for thyself, and shall bear the burden with thee. So basically, like, yo, man, like, you take it on way too much by yourself.
Right.
You put some people under you that you can trust.
Right.
They know the law and everything, and let them handle the small stuff. They can just bring you the big stuff.
Right.
Like it's funny because even today, we kind of live that like that in society. You have the local courts, and if something heavier, you move up, you move up
to the Supreme Court.
To the Supreme Court. Same thing. You don't take everything to the Supreme Court.
Right.
During that time, they brought everything to the Supreme Court.
Right.
And it wasn't necessary. All right. And verse 23, and thou shalt do this thing, and Elohim command thee so, then thou shalt be able to endure, and all these people shall also go to their place in peace. So Moshe hearkened to the voice of his father-in-law, and did all that he had said. Moshe chose every man out of Israel, made them heads of the people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, rulers of tens. And they judged the people at all seasons, the hard causes that brought unto Moshe, but every small matter they judged themselves. And Moshe let his father-in-law depart, and he went his way into his own land. Like, he was taking it so much because he loved his people. He tried to keep things together.
Right.
You have a whole bunch of people in the wilderness. Like, that's a ton of people you trying to manage, and you're handling all the cases for day and night.
Yourself, right.
So that's draining.
Right.
That's so draining. So his father-in-law, man, like, yo, bro, you need help, man. You can't be doing all this.
Right.
But it's so funny because, man, and like you said, Yahweh used anybody. You don't have to use this believers.
Exactly.
You know, because this dude came from a different culture. So if you skip over to Numbers 11, go to Numbers 11. And we go to verse 14 to 16. I am not able to bear all these people alone because it is too heavy for me. And thou deal thus with me, kill me, I pray thee, out of hand. If I found favor in your sight, and let me not see my righteousness. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, gather unto me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom thou knowest to be the elders of the people, and officers over them, and bring them into the tabernacle of the congregation, that they stand with thee. And I will come down and talk with thee there, and I will take of the spirit which is upon thee, and I will put it upon them. For they bear the burden of the people with thee, thou bear it not thyself alone. So so Moshe heard a great advice from his father-in-law for a different culture.
Right.
But instead of trying to trust himself to choose these people, he went to Yahweh with it. Like, yo,
right,
kill me now, bro. This is it.
Right.
You know, so Yahweh like, yo, I hear you. You bring me 70 people, and he did. So you see how he followed a good advice.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like that is real. So he wouldn't. So Moshe was never the arrogant type. It's just trying to keep his hands on every single thing in his camp,
right?
Or in that nation. You try to keep your hands on everything, you can't handle all that stuff, bro.
Right. You
drive yourself crazy.
Right. You have to divide it up against with people that you trust.
The people that's what your round table is for. Yeah. So we just want to we just show you some examples of bad leadership, good leadership. People serving y'all with pure heart and intentions,
and out of love.
And out of love, man. I mean, that really boiled down to. And as a wrap up, We covered King Saul, which was the first king of Israel.
Right.
The first guy before him,
Abimelech,
and how he killed 70 of his siblings just to have power.
Just to have power,
man. These people just wanted power. They didn't care about serving his people, serving Yahweh his people.
Right.
They were very selfish.
And that's the thing about it is when you have somebody like David and Moses, it was one of those things where when they served the people, it was selfless because the people were very ungrateful.
Yeah. Yeah,
but at the end of the day, they couldn't help but love him.
Yeah,
so we gotta take that example, man.
We do, and we saw some great examples with David and Moshe. Like those, and then I love reading their stories because I get something new out of every time.
Right.
Because that's my first time catching that part about Moshe. His father-in-law pulled him to the side, like, "Hey, man, I know you love your people, man, but you're doing too much. You can't you can't bring these people together alone,
Right.
And he took heed to the advice. He could easily shut his father-in-law up and send him away.
Right.
He didn't do that. He took heed, like you know what, you make some sense. But he took it to Yahweh for greater clarity.
Right.
And it was done and even with that, it was done in order.
Exactly.
Everything was done in order. And he had to drive himself crazy by having a power, hunger, to have hands on everything.
Right.
So yeah, man. But this is our first episode. We get into the groove of things. But I hope you enjoy listening to us. We appreciate y'all. All those who support us on Patreon, we appreciate you. The Cash App and the PayPal, we appreciate that as well. But continue to listen to us. We'll be back for the next episode of The Black Narrative, and of course we'll be dropping more Bible study episodes too as well. So I hope you enjoy the conversation, and I hope we're pre-recording this right now, so hopefully you have it out soon. But anything else you want to add?
Just stay vigilant and stay in the word.
Yeah, man. So I appreciate y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and shalom.
Shalom, y'all.